Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this Cabinet meeting on the 1st of December. Just before we start, I'm obliged to inform you that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded. Can I also please remind members to identify your name and role before speaking so that it is clear to those watching the meeting as to who is speaking. I'd also like to remind people, if you could please wear your masks whilst in the meeting, unless you are obviously speaking. That would be very much appreciated. I appreciate there's a lot going on at the moment, but the business of the council must continue to move forward, and as such we have an agenda before us this morning. And are there any apologies for absence? I know we have Councillor Leslie Picton, hence the fact that I am in the chair this morning. But other than that, I think we have a full house, so no more apologies. Item 2, disclosable pecuniary interests. Any interest to declare? No one's indicating. Item 3, which is the minutes of the previous Cabinet meeting, to approve as a correct record from the meeting held on Wednesday the 10th of November. Is there anyone able to propose that?
Yes, Councillor Potter, I'm happy to propose those minutes.
Thank you. And a seconder?
I'm happy to second them.
Thank you very much. All in favour? Thank you very much. That's those approved. Item 4 is public questions, and we have 2 public questions this morning, and the first one is from Jane Astley-Berry, who I believe is in the meeting. Would you like to read your question? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Tackling pollution in the River Severn and its tributaries. The River Severn and its tributaries are vitally important to Shropshire's landscape, are essential biodiverse habitats, and are crucial to people's mental and physical health. Currently, sewage and other pollutants are frequently discharged into them. An ecologically healthy Severn and its associated rivers and brooks should provide social and recreational opportunities for local people and visitors. It would promote our well-being and the well-being of the plants and animals we coexist with. In order to tackle all barriers, what resilient and timely steps will Shropshire Council take, working with Severn Trent Water and other relevant partners, to achieve both excellent bathing waters status, that's Bathing Waters Regulation 2013, and good ecological status, and that's from the Water Framework Directive 2000, for the Severn and its tributaries. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I'd like to ask Councillor Ian Nellens to provide a response.
Thank you for the question, and we do agree that the River Severn and its tributaries are vitally important to Shropshire's landscape, are essential to biodiversity, and are an important part of many people's mental and physical health, and in some cases their livelihoods, as you just explained. As part of the local plan review, Shropshire Council is working with utility companies and the Environment Agency to assess the impact of future growth and development on water treatment works within the county to ensure we grow sustainably. Some areas of the county, such as the Clone catchment, are especially sensitive in an ecology sense, and we also actively engage with Natural England in developing plans for improving the water quality of the River Team. Shropshire contains a number of internationally designated wildlife sites, and there are many designated sites downstream of the county, including 2 special protection areas, and we are very conscious of the role the county plays at the top of the Severn catchment in establishing water quality. Shropshire Council was instrumental in setting up and actively leads the River Severn Partnership, which is a catchment-wide partnership of councils, the Environment Agency and other key stakeholders to collectively address the challenges posed by climate change, the need for green economic recovery, and to recognise water as an important part of our infrastructure and environment. The The partnership is jointly chaired by Mark Barrow, our Executive Director is placed here in Shropshire Council. The partnership is a national pilot for the Adaptive Pathway Programme and is bringing forward a range of demonstrated programmes, including some focused upon improving water quality and bathing water standards. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Mr. Stephen Malloy, who isn't attending and isn't online. So I think Tim Collard is going to read out the question on his behalf.
I am, yes. Thank you, Chair. So this is the question from Mr. Malloy. This council has a duty to listen to the concerns of people who live, work and study in Shropshire. And as leader of the council, you've gone on record as saying that you want to listen to the people of Shropshire. So I'm here today to see if you will listen to my concern. Agenda item 6 today will see reports from the scrutiny committees rubber stamped by your cabinet. I attended 2 meetings of the Place Overview Committee, which was supposed to be scrutinising planning enforcement. I raised concerns about how ineffective planning enforcement is and pointed out that planning breaches on historic buildings and in conservation areas are just being ignored by officers, and perhaps even more important at this time of the year. Conditions that control surface water drainage are not being checked before being signed off, which may be exacerbating the flooding we see each year. Responses to those concerns were either misleading or patronising, and when one member asked for more details on the issues I raised, he was swiftly closed down by the chair, and another member waved his arms impatiently, seeking an end to the meeting. Brackets. All of this is, of course, available to view in the recording of the meeting. Can I ask that you refer the issue of planning enforcement back for proper scrutiny so that lessons can be learned from the past to improve services going forward?
Thank you very much for the question, and the response will be provided by myself. In response to your request for further scrutiny of planning enforcement in the future, the intention is to provide regular reports to the Planning Committee meetings on planning enforcement performance. If the Chair of Scrutiny wants to review the progress is being made and whether further improvements are necessary, there is an opportunity to include this on the scrutiny work programme in the future. With the regular oversight of enforcement by Planning Committee, it is hoped that this will give members the assurances that they need. Thank you very much. That's the end of public questions. We move on to agenda item number 5, which is member questions. And the first question is from Councillor David Basmar, who's in the room.
Thank you, Chair. I've been told that children aged between 12 and 15 are not being offered their first jab in Shrewsbury and are being forced to travel to Oswestry or Telford. Is the lead member for Children and Education aware of the situation, and is she making representations to the NHS to see that children offer their jab locally? I might add this was written a few weeks ago.
Thank you very much, and I'd like to bring in, it's a bit of a double act here because it crosses 2 portfolios. First, the Councillor Hurst Knight, and I think Councillor Simon Jones might chip in as well on this.
Thank you, Councillor Basma, for your question, and I'm just going to say I'm going to hand it over to the portfolio holders, Councillor Jones, who's responsible for adult social care and public health, and he'll provide a full response on the situation.
Thank you. I can confirm that all secondary schools in Shropshire have been visited at least on one occasion by the school immunisation team to deliver the 12 to 15 year vaccination programme to children who have chosen to have the vaccination at school. There will be additional visits to some school sites as required. However, there may be students who were or will be unable to receive the vaccination on the day of the school clinic, perhaps due to absence, or if a child has had COVID-19 up to 28 days prior to the session. For children still requiring COVID-19 vaccines, please advise parents of children or the children aged 12 to 15 years old themselves wanting to receive a vaccination that the following options are available to them in Shropshire, Telford and Wrekin. For those who are homeschooled or were unable to be vaccinated in school settings or would prefer to be vaccinated out of school settings, the following options are available. appointments booked online via the national booking system using the following the NHS link, or to call NHS 119 to book an appointment. Walk-in and pop-up clinics, no appointments required, limited vaccination availability. COVID-19 vaccination walk-in clinics and pop-up clinics. Those can be found from the STW ICS org UK page on the internet. We'll actually show where all those clinics are. Parents are asked to accompany children aged 12 to 15 to clinics to ensure parental consent is sought and to keep checking for days in clinics, time clinics. Options are available across the county, including Shrewsbury at Coral House and the Darwin Centre on selected weekends. Full details are available on the site which I explained, the stwics.org.uk site. In light of the announcements following the identification of Omicron, there is a commitment now from the government to offer a second dose to our young people, and this is being worked through currently by the local team. And just for information, I am aware that Darwin Centre is open tonight for walk-in vaccinations and again on Sunday. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are we okay with that, Councillor Basma?
Yeah, thanks very much. Thanks for the reply. Thank you.
So the next question is from Councillor Alex Wagner, and I think, Councillor Basma, you were asking this on his behalf, is that correct?
That's correct. Thank you, Chair. The 3 park and ride stations in Shrewsbury at Oxford, Millbrace and Hartlepool are each situated in areas which are within walking or cycling distance for many residents and provide a more reliable service than other local buses in many instances. Despite this, the current fare regime means that those who drive over are charged £2 for a return, whilst those who walk over have to pay double this, with a single costing £2. This encourages residents to make unnecessary short distance car journeys, often under half a mile, adding to traffic and environmental concerns. Would the Cabinet member support changing this policy to put walkers on a level playing field?
Thank you very much, and it's Councillor Cecilia Motley to provide a response.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thanks to Councillor Alex Wagner for that question. Under current local bus legislation, subsidised bus services are unable to operate in direct competition with local bus services that are commercially operated at the bus company's own risk. The walk-on fare for park and ride was therefore created to deter passengers from doing this where there was a commercial bus service in operation. However, we don't believe that this is how bus services should operate going forwards, and whilst this legislation restricts us at the moment, we're seeking to address this through the government's recently published National Bus Strategy, where a far more integrated approach will be taken with regards to public transport, allowing for multi-operator ticketing and freedoms for passengers to move easily from one service to another. Also, we are implementing our local cycling and walking infrastructure plan, the LC-WIP, to further integrate transport and active travel. Central to transforming public transport within the town is our proposal for the park and ride service to become Shrewsbury Connect, which will enable the connection opportunities that you've highlighted in your question, along with many other improvements to the service. The catalyst for these improvements is our ambitious £98 million bus service improvement plan funding bid that we recently submitted to the Department of Transport, aiming to transform public transport right across Shropshire.
Thank you very much, Councillor Motley. The next question is.
Can I just come back with a supplementary for Councillor Wagner? Is that right?
Yeah.
Just to ask Councillor Motley, when we might be able to see these changes in place. So obviously I support the action that you're taking, but it'd be interesting to know if there's any estimation of when this might happen.
We are hopeful that we will get a response to our bus service improvement plan funding bid before the end of the year. And once we get it, we'll be able to roll this out quite quickly. I can't give you an exact time frame at the moment, but I will certainly keep members updated because this is going to be a very exciting new development for Shropshire.
Thank you very much, Councillor Motley, and I think we're all looking forward to seeing the outcome of that. Next question is from Councillor Rob Wilson, who I don't think is with us today. So, Councillor Basmar, you're asking this on his behalf?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Will the council include mode share targets, including interim milestones in LTP4? In addition, ensuring that measures are in place for the measurement, analysis and scrutiny of such milestones and targets, so that the effectiveness of LTP4 can be judged in an open and transparent way, for example, annually.
Thank you very much, and the response will be provided by Councillor Dean Carroll.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Wilson, for the question. Following an agreed recommendation as presented in the LTP4 report to November's Place Scrutiny Committee, the post-Cabinet approval of LTP4 plan, a board will be formed, chaired by the portfolio holder, that would include members from Scrutiny Committee and officers. The board will meet on a quarterly basis and produce a draft quarterly and then annual report on the progress of LTP4, its issues and future intentions. The draft annual report will then be presented to scrutiny prior to be formally issued as a public document to clearly and transparently inform of progress on the local transport plan, as scrutiny endorsed. Other supported plans such as the local plan, bus service improvement plan and the local cycling and walking infrastructure plan would all be integrated plans that will support this intent as a wider coherent approach to transport.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll. Okay, please.
Can I just come back on that one, is that right?
Yeah.
Yes, so thanks very much, Councillor Carroll, for that response. I appreciate there'll be a board, and I appreciate that you'll be looking at this, on a regular basis and scrutiny. But will there be measures, as outlined by Councillor Wilson in his question, to actually so that we can see and measure the progress that's been made in the implementation of LTP4?
Councillor Carroll.
Thank you. I think I did actually say that this will be measuring performance. So measuring performance means that there will be measures that are measured. I don't know what more I can say on that.
Thank you very much. I think the next question is from yourself, Councillor Basmar.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I'm seriously concerned that either by default or intention, opposition councillors are being prevented from being able to examine the council's budget proposals for next year. The Finance Strategy Task and Finish Group has just met twice. At a second meeting on 22nd of September, the discussion with Karen Bradshaw and Director of Finance. No proposals were presented and no notes were being produced. Normally, like minutes, you would expect them to be inserted in advance of the next meeting. The next meeting was finally scheduled for 2nd November and then rescheduled for the 22nd November. This has now been cancelled. No papers have been received for this meeting. The Cabinet is, of course, due to consider recommended budget for next year on the 15th of December. Will be then go out for consultation. The papers for this meeting should be published around the 7th or 8th of December. So that will be the first time we've seen any budgetary proposals apart from Shire Services before a debate at Cabinet just a week later. At the moment, we have no information about what the Council plans to do in order to balance its 22-23 budget, apart from Shire Services, while the Q2 financial monitoring report on how this year's budget is looking has been listed for discussion by the Performance Management Scrutiny Committee today, after it's been debated and more likely approved by Cabinet. One of the reasons for the Finance Strategy Task and Finish Group not meeting is a failure to replace a scrutiny support officer, leaving one officer to support all the Council's scrutiny and overview committees, which is an impossible task. Under the current council leadership, there appears to be a campaign to silence opposition councillors by withholding financial information and denying officers support for their attempts to hold the leader and her lead members to account. One, when will the current vacancy for a scrutiny support officer, which has lasted for nearly 2 years, be filled? Two, in the absence of any meetings, why were members of the Finance Strategy Task and Finish Group not kept updated with plans for next year's budget? Three, why was the Performance Management Scrutiny Committee considering the Council's financial performance at the end of Q2 scheduled to take place after its consideration by Cabinet?
Thank you very much, and the response will be provided by Councillor William Butler.
Thank you for the questions. Just to recap, the first question was, when will the current vacancy for a scrutiny support officer, which has lasted for nearly 2 years, be filled? The response is, in reference to another question on the agenda, the leader agrees it is a good time to undertake a review of the support provided to members to enable them to be as effective as possible in their role as councillors. Question number 2. In the absence of any meetings, why were members of the Finance Strategy Task and Finish Group not kept updated with plans for next year's budget? The response: an overview of the plan for the budget process was provided to the Finance Strategy Task and Finish Group on the 22nd of September. This included a detailed timetable proposing the Task and Finish Group would scrutinise the budget in early November before Cabinet approval on the 1st of December, although a reserve date of the 15th of December was provided. That reserve date being necessary, the Task and Finish Group was rescheduled to the 22nd of November. Due to leave and member diary clashes, this Task and Finish Group meeting was subsequently cancelled. This was the plan for next year's budget and members were kept fully updated on this. The cancelled Task and Finish Group has been rescheduled to the 20th of December, but again this has been fully communicated to members. Question number 3. Why was the Performance Management Scrutiny Committee considering the Council's financial performance at the end of quarter 2 scheduled to take place after its consideration by Cabinet? The response: the financial monitoring reports are produced each quarter throughout the financial year for Cabinet approval. Performance Management Scrutiny Committee have taken the opportunity to consider these reports for many years. I am not aware of any occasions where that committee have reviewed these factual quarterly reports in advance of Cabinet. It is therefore normal practice for that committee to consider the quarter 2 monitoring report after its consideration by Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Butler. Councillor Basman.
Yes, thanks, Chair. Just coming back on the, thank you very much for the answers to this question. So coming back on the answer to question 3, don't you think it would be sensible to have the Performance Management Committee review the quarterly reports before they're considered by Cabinet? Because, essentially they can't perform their scrutiny their function unless they're able to inform Cabinet of any concerns they might have.
What I would actually say to that is, when they go to performance management scrutiny after Cabinet, performance management scrutiny have every right to make a recommendation back to Cabinet. So it creates the same environment, so it doesn't matter either way. Because remember, these are not annual budgetary reports, they are only performance reports. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butler. And the final question is from Councillor Roger Evans, who's joining us in the room today. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chairman. My question is, I note the 3rd meeting of the Finance Task and Finish Group has now been cancelled. This important group failed, of course, to have any meetings last year. This year, the failure was noted and the need to hold regular meetings was agreed. The membership was refreshed and included in its terms of reference that it needed to meet monthly. These terms of reference were agreed at its first meeting, which was finally held in July, and which included a list of the different topics that would be discussed in turn at each of the 8 proposed meetings. The Task and Finish Group have at present met just twice, once in July and the last one in September, some 10 weeks ago. The next scheduled one is on the 7th of January, according to the diary, still some 6 weeks away. This will mean it will be 16 weeks between meetings, or just short of 4 months. The agreed terms of reference included at the July meeting of the Task and Finish Group included the following statements. Timescale. The committee will meet monthly after the elections in May 2021, from June 21 until January 2022. Meetings will dovetail financial reporting. It also included these 2 statements, which are government statements. The Local Government Act 2000 states that it is the responsibility of the full council, on the recommendation of the executive, to approve the budget and the related council tax demand. The Act makes it clear that the role of scrutiny in the financial process is to hold the executive to account and to ensure that its decisions are in the best interests of the community. Some scrutiny of budget setting and other financial planning processes is therefore essential. The Local Government Act 2003 provides the central legislation surrounding the Council's financial planning and budgeting arrangements. Sections 28 and 29 of the Act require members to be involved in budget monitoring throughout the year, although it is not specified whether this is primarily an executive or scrutiny function. Scrutiny provides the ideal vehicle for such involvement. End of quote. At present, given the resources that are being provided to enable scrutiny to adequately function, the above is just not possible. It has also been noted that many other task and finish groups who were charged with looking into items have also not met for some time. Does the council leader and cabinet agree with and are satisfied with the scrutiny that at present is being carried out by this council? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Evans, and I will be providing the response on behalf of the leader, Councillor Leslie Picton. Whilst the leader does not accept the basic premise that scrutiny isn't working, she does agree that the time is probably right to undertake a review of the support provided to members to enable them to be as effective as possible in their role as opposition councillors. This will include some input from the LGA. The leader has asked the Chief Executive to put together a plan to deliver this work, which she will undertake to share with group leaders before Christmas. Thank you.
I have a supplementary, Chairman.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. I note the answer, and I note we have had previous meetings and discussions with the LGA, and their recommendations have all been ignored. I note, and do you think the chairman of our scrutiny committees are actually doing a good job, the job they are supposed to be doing? And finally, are you going to continue to only allow Conservative councillors to be chairman of our council scrutiny committees, which of course goes against the recommendations contained in the council's constitution?
Thank you very much for that, Councillor Evans. I think we all have confidence in our scrutiny chairs, and I will obviously defer and pass on the information that you've suggested now to the leader, who I'm sure will have discussions with other group leaders in the coming weeks, as she has stated, before Christmas. Thank you. That's the end of item 5, which is member questions. We move on to item 6, which is scrutiny items, and I don't think we have any scrutiny items. So we move on to item 7, which is adult social care winter plan. And I would like to invite Councillor Simon Jones to present this, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Simon Jones, I'm the portfolio holder of adult social care and public health. The Shropshire Council Adult Social Care Winter Plan 21-22. I'm presenting the winter plan and action plan to Cabinet and request that Cabinet members consider the winter plan and the action plan to ensure that high quality, safe and timely care is provided to everyone who needs it. And we continue to protect people who need care, their carers and the social care workforce from COVID-19 and other respiratory viruses. The Department of Health and Social Care published its ASC COVID-19 Winter Plan 21-22 in November. This builds on last year's ASC Winter Plan and sets out the key elements of national support available for the social care sector for this winter, as well as the principal actions to take for local authorities, NHS organisations and social care providers across all settings, including those in the voluntary and community sector. The Shropshire ASC Winter Plan 21-22 uses these national actions to set out how, by working together with a health and care system, we will ensure that high quality, safe and timely care is provided to everyone who needs it, while we continue to protect people who need care, their carers and social care workforce from COVID-19 and other respiratory viruses. The winter plan and the accompanying action plan plays an important role in describing how we will respond to our local demands and challenges. It describes our close working relationship with our care and support providers and the ways we will support people in Shropshire this winter. The action plan will be reviewed, added to and updated as we progress through the winter. The version attached is the Cabinet report. The version attached to the Cabinet report is a snapshot, and we will work at pace. Will be updated to reflect our current position and the new new mitigating actions. The key areas within the plan, if I can draw Cabinet members' attention to the care sector workforce challenges and how we are working to support the sector, our COVID management plan and how we continue to deliver the vaccination programme and outbreak prevention and management. Involvement of the voluntary and community sector, we're taking every opportunity to work with our voluntary and community partner providers to maximise their activity that supports people to stay well and independent at home. Flooding, we are working closely with colleagues across the Council and the Environment Agency to ensure that our flooding action plans are joined up with and part of the wider response. And homelessness, continuing to ensure people have access to the support that they need. A lot of coordination and activity is done across both health, social care and support the residents of the county to keep them safe and well during the winter period. And I present the report.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jones. And can I ask for a seconder for that report? Councillor Hurst.
Second report.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on this one? Councillor Basma.
Thanks, Chair, and thanks very much for this very full report and the plan. I just wanted to pick up one of the things you just mentioned, actually, and it's also mentioned in paragraph 7.5 of the report, about the problems with the care workforce. And obviously there's a lot of challenges there related to COVID vaccination. I wondered how Shropshire is faring and how you see the next few months, because it's going to be very difficult, I think, in that sector.
Thank you, Councillor Jones, and of course we have the executive director for people in the room as well. Should you like to comment?
Yeah, thank you for that question. I haven't got the exact figures, but I'm sure that either Tanya or Laura, who's also with us on screen, will be able to give that exact information.
So if it's okay, I'll just do a brief overview. Just to introduce myself, I'm Laura Tyler. I'm the Assistant Director for Joint Commissioning. So just in relation to your question, Councillor, it's a really good one, and obviously there's been a lot of press interest in the workforce nationally as well. I don't think Shropshire's anywhere different from some of the pressures that we're seeing in the across the care sector. So what we're doing is we're really trying to work closely with the sector, particularly our care association, about what we can do to try and mitigate some of those challenges. In particular, we are looking at a local recruitment campaign and working closely with them in line with the national campaign that you may have seen recently on the news and on the radio. So and it's really important, I think, particularly to be working with our health colleagues. So particularly the ICS are also looking at the workforce pressures. So we're working collaboratively with them. Looking at particularly maybe in January doing some recruitment potential fairs for that. There's some other areas of work, so we're thinking really trying to be very differently and think creatively about how and what we do. So particularly around bolstering resources around our start, which is our in-house provision. So as people come out of hospital, really putting that focus on that reablement, so people actually go home, have a period of reablement, and actually then shouldn't need, or at least need, a reduced care package in the long term. So we're just thinking about how we creatively use technology solutions as well, so we're not so reliant upon recruitment and the workforce. and really thinking about how we use some of those resources flexibly. You may have heard previously about the 2 carers in the car that we've got, which is a really successful project. We're looking at growing that as well, so we've got some flexibility around the ideally to get people home and to support people at home, which is obviously the goal for our social care. That's the main things that we're doing at the moment, and obviously long term we're looking at redesigning and modelling and what we do from a commissioner perspective moving forward. Obviously wage will come into that. We've seen national living wage announcements that will increase next year, and really just showing, I suppose around the recruitment and retention, showing that there are career opportunities and development for people to do that. So we're looking at how do we have a single point of access to support the sector, to look at what opportunities could be there for them as well. So there's a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes to support and mitigate some of those risks that are currently going on across the sector. Hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much. That's very, very detailed information, and I'm sure Cabinet are reassured to hear that. Tanya Miles.
Just to add in about vaccinations, if I may. So in Shropshire, you've heard this before, but 97% of our care home residents have been double vaccinated. In terms of the booster jab, it's around 79.5, so that's phenomenal. 100% of our care workers in care homes have been vaccinated. Cabinet will be aware of the change in legislation that mandated all care home staff to be vaccinated. So that's really positive for Shropshire. Just 1% of the workforce was not vaccinated and therefore have sought alternative employment. But really positive for Shropshire in terms of protecting our most vulnerable residents here in Shropshire. And a huge thank you to our commissioning team and all of our care sector staff who have worked phenomenally over the last couple of years. It's going to be a tricky winter, there's no doubt about it, but this winter plan does hopefully give confidence to Cabinet in terms of what Shropshire Council is doing in supporting the NHS over this winter. So just to recap, Shropshire Council has commissioned 16 additional winter beds, 5 additional designated setting beds, and we're supporting the voluntary sector in terms of a winter independent support scheme in terms of keeping people at home in our communities. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I think those are some fantastic figures, and I'd just like to, on behalf of Cabinet, thank all those involved, particularly around the vaccinations, and of course all those dedicated staff that work in the care sector across Shropshire. We are very grateful to them, and as you say, it's possibly a difficult winter ahead, but at least we are well prepared to meet the uncertainty and challenges that move forward. Councillor Jones, anything else you'd like to add?
No, that's fine. Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I ask that if there's no more questions or comments, that members approve the recommendations? So those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 8, which is Children's Services Key Performance Data, and I'd like to invite Councillor Kirsty Hurst-Knight to talk about the report.
Thank you, Chair. So today we've got the Children's Services Key Performance Data. As you can see within the report, it summarises the key performance indicators within children's social care at the end of Q2. There's a number of statutory key performance indicators within the report, and it shows good practice. It shows Cabinet a regular oversight, and I'm very pleased to see that this report is being brought forward and presented today for the first time in very many years. And as part of a forward plan, regular updates will continue. It's very much an adaptable performance data report that we can add to. That's really important to say. As you want more information, we can add to it. It's very much a starting point. The data demonstrates the safety of the system. I think that's really important. And it clearly identifies a steer of dealing with improving our performance. The report shows daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly and annual tracking, and this forms part of the quality assurance framework as we link the performance data to our audits. So I'm happy to recommend to put forward the 2 recommendations and propose them today. Note that the report and its contents, and refer any further issues to the Performance Management Scrutiny Committee. And as always, I would like it to be recorded for the minutes. A heartfelt thanks to all that continue to support the children and young people of Shropshire and promote positive outcomes for them all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And can I ask for a seconder?
I'll happily second that,
Councillor
Councillor.
Jones is seconding that. Any comments? Councillor Vasmar?
Thank you, Chair, and thanks very much for this detailed report, which is very useful. And there's reference, I think, in the recommendations to that certain items be discussed by Performance Management Scrutiny Committee. And I wondered if one of the things that Performance Management Scrutiny might consider is that if you look at paragraph 7.2 and the referral to social care, and there seems to be a couple of issues there which might warrant further scrutiny, really, which are highlighted in that paragraph, particularly the increasing levels of referrals in Shropshire, I think, and also the lack of referrals from the health sector, which seem interesting and not quite as one would expect. And I wondered whether that might be something which could be referred to Performance Management Scrutiny.
Thank you very much, and I'll hand back to Councillor Hurst-Knight, and of course we have the Assistant Director Sonia Miller joining us on Teams as well.
I am here. Yeah, I am here. Ed, thank you very much. Yes, I'm Councillor. I'm quite happy to take that to explore that further. We are currently working with our health colleagues to understand the low rate of referrals and doing a great deal of dip sample auditing across the system, particularly at the front door where contacts and referrals come in. That's being led by my service manager, Jeanette Hill. We do need to understand what that's about. We have a good understanding of why that happened at the beginning of the sort of COVID response, and we saw a sort of decline in health referrals and contacts and an increase in police referrals and contacts. What we haven't seen then is the kind of equitable rise back up from health contacts and referrals and a decrease in the police contacts and referrals. So it is an area that we are actually exploring ourselves, and I'm quite happy to bring a paper to explore that to the relevant scrutiny.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? No, I think we're all quiet on that. So I'm pleased to see this report coming to Cabinet today. It highlights the fantastic work that our social care teams do in supporting the most vulnerable and children across Shropshire. And again, something I think we're all very, very grateful for. So can I ask Cabinet for approval of the recommendations? All those in favour? And me, thank you very much. And we move on to item number 9, which is the Gambling Act, which the report will be presented by myself. So the approval and the adoption of the Council's Gambling Act 2005 policy statement for the years 2022 to 2025 in accordance with the statutory responsibility placed on the government by the Gambling Act in 2005. This Act requires the Council to prepare and publish a statement of the principles that it proposes to apply in exercise of its functions under the Act. The policy statement under the Act lasts for a maximum period of 3 years, but can be reviewed and revised by the Council at any time. The Council Strategic Licensing Committee has agreed to the proposed policy statement and recommends its approval by Cabinet. And I noted that the Strategic Licensing Committee looked at it both in July 2001 and October 2001. The recommendations are outlined at item 3 within the report, and I very much hope that Cabinet will approve those recommendations. And can I ask for a seconder for the report, please?
Yeah, happy to second.
Councillor Cecilia Motley is seconding the report. Any comments? No one's indicating on the screen, I don't think. So all those in favour? Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 10, procurement of highways professional services contract. And can I invite Councillor Dean Carroll to move this report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Dean Carroll, Cabinet Member for Physical Infrastructure, which is highways, assets and built housing. This report is coming as members will be aware that the WSP contract is coming up for renewal next year, and we've taken a degree of time, and we continue to take a degree of time to make sure that we are getting best value from that contract. And as a result of that, we want to do a piece of redesign work on that, but in order to ensure that we still have access to the design and consultation services that WSP provide, we're seeking a 12-month extension to allow us to remodel what the contract may look like in future. We've also taken on board comments that have been made by members and by the public and by parish and town councils, and our own performance monitoring of how the contract is working so far to date. And that is why we are looking to withdraw from the initial 12-month contract the highways development control function and the land drainage function and bring them back in-house, because we recognise that there's a need for greater internal oversight and input into those functions. And we don't want to wait at the extra 12 months while we redesign the contract. So that is why we're here today. We have recommendations 3.1 to 3.4. I'll happily take any questions if I can, and I'll move the recommendations.
Thank you. Before we take questions, can I ask for a seconder for that report, please? Councillor Rob Gittins.
Yeah, Councillor Rob Gittins, happy to second chat.
Any comments or questions? Councillor Julian Dean joining us on Teams.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yep, we've got you.
Fantastic. First of all, just a general comment that clearly a lot of this is because of the painful process of making bids that the government is imposing on us, and I hope that through the LGA and through the council's involvement in UK 100 Countryside Climate Network that we are beginning to push for this new net zero forum to actually address this problem, because it's just a nightmare in terms of just highways, but in terms of everything really, that the funding world is just makes life very, very difficult. So it would be interesting to see what work we're doing to help get that message through, as we now have finally something that we called for back in July. I think we finally have some sort of forum for working together with government on specifically on getting to net zero. My question is related to 2.7, where it says that the staff time charging to capital projects system doesn't really exist. I'm wondering how much that has cost us, because that's huge, isn't it? I would have thought that in terms of ensuring that projects are properly accounted for and wherever possible are paid for out of capital, which is, saves us money in terms of revenue, is really, really important. So I'm wondering, will we have that system up and running quickly, and how much has it cost us not to have that system up and running? Thanks.
Thank you very much, Councillor Carroll.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. I'm not sure where the impression that this has been somehow delayed by process of government bid cycles has come from, because as I said, these recommendations are all tied to the timeline of the ending of the existing WSP contract. So it wouldn't have been possible or economically viable to bring forward changes ahead of the end of the WSP contract, which is why we're looking to do that as part of the 12-month extension. In terms of 2.7, yes, we recognise that it's a very fine line when you capitalise preparatory work for major capital projects, because quite rightly the executive director for resources and the director for finance will say there is a risk that until you reach a certain stage in the capital project, there is a risk that that capital project may not go ahead and be delivered, and so you can't capitalise those initial costs. From a highways and an assets point of view, I think some officers believe that perhaps that fine line is a little bit too much in one direction and the other, and it's rather than ripping up the whole system of caution, it's just about minor adjustments to make sure that we are capitalising costs at the appropriate point. I can't give you a figure for how much that would save, but I noticed that Steve Brown is on the call and he is managing highways, traffic and transport projects. So I don't know whether Steve is able to provide any more detailed information on that.
If Steve's available. Yeah.
Hello there. Can you hear me at all?
We've got you.
Hello there. Just to pick up really from Councillor Carroll's point, is that there are a number of projects that we take through, and where possible, and where with the agreement of our sort of corporate finance colleagues, we capitalise those when they get to a certain point, so the surety in delivery, and where at all possible we do full cost recovery on that. So to give you an example of that, the project manager for the North West Relief Road is in a fully capitalised post, and that work goes through. And other bids that we've submitted to central government, we also put posts in there for full capitalisation. So there are posts in the bus service improvement plan. There were capitalised posts within the levelling up bids that we put through there. So there is always a transition period between research and feasibility, and at the point that becomes a discrete scheme that can be delivered and subject to the sufficient budgets on that. So that is an issue that we're working on. We are in discussions as well in order to be able to improve that, and where we've got routine and capital works, looking to extend that further. So there is some work to be done around that. We are working with our corporate finance colleagues on that, and we will improve that. But it is also true to say that for our sort of major schemes, that capitalisation of staff is in place. We could improve that more, but then that's subject to sometimes the funding that we get from central government.
Thank you very much.
Chair, can I just respond very quickly to the first part of Councillor Carroll's response? I wasn't suggesting that the delay was due to. I was more making the point that the ballooning of the work that WSP has done is down. It seems to be in part down to the crazy system of government funding. It wasn't a criticism of what's being proposed in the paper.
Okay, thank you. Apologies, I misunderstood your point, Councillor Dean. I think it's just the nature of funding bids and funding bid rounds that the work would always be cyclical. But in all honesty, work would probably be cyclical without rounds of funding bids, because we would still have to gear up for projects and then enter delivery phases, and those would require different inputs from in-house teams, from WSP, from Kia, or from any other contractors that we brought in as part of our procurement framework. In terms of, I've been able to lay my hands on a little more detail to the answer to your second question, that in terms of the cost to us, it hasn't cost us through the WSP contractors. We've used core staff to deliver those capital projects. And as Steve Brown said, we are, where those projects are able to go forward, you can then recover those costs in future. It's just more of a cash flow issue at the start than a long-term funding issue. And yes, I can confirm our complete commitment to getting that up and running.
Thank you very much. Any more comments? Councillor Basma?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And just to make further comments about on paragraph, I think it's 2.7. I hear what Councillor Carroll says, but the highways do have a bit of a track record on charging. There was issues to do with Kia, which have been discussed at great length at various times, and it seems here that also we haven't, as it says, the report says we haven't a mature charging system, a mature staff time charging system. So, Councillor Carroll, will you be able to come back in 6 months' time or so and say that we have got a mature staff time charging system?
Councillor Carroll?
As I've already committed to, we are looking to fully resolve these issues around the preparatory work for capital projects. I can't at this stage commit to a 6 or 12 month window, as that's part of this wider piece of work in restructuring the existing WSP contract into a new contract to tender. But that will be done, and when it is done, it will come back to Cabinet and probably to Council, I would imagine, due to the cost implications of retendering the contract that's currently with WSP.
Thank you very much. If there's no more comments, can I ask for approval of the recommendations for this report? All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. That's approved. Item number 11, Quarter 2 Financial Monitoring Report. Can I ask Councillor Gwilym Butler to present the report, please?
Thank you, Councillor Potter. This is the second quarterly financial monitoring report for 21-22, covering the period April to September 21, and showing an improved financial position. The main budget variances and mitigating plans are outlined to help bring expenditure within budget by year end. At the end of the first quarter, it was estimated the overspend fell within a control corridor ranging between 2.6 and 9.7 million, with a best estimate of a 7.3 million overspend at that time. While it remains difficult to project the year-end of position, we currently estimate a much improved position within the same control corridor with a best estimate at present of a 4.4 million overspend. With half of the year gone, we've identified that over 4 million, which is 41% of our savings proposals, are delivered on an ongoing basis or within evidence of delivery. Almost 24% of the council's capital budget has been delivered, impacted by COVID restrictions over the first 2 quarters. With that said, Councillor Potter, I would like to move the recommendations that in 3.1a, that the report note that at the end of quarter 2, that's the 30th of September 21, the full year revenue forecast is a potential overspend of 4.363 million. B, consider the impact of this on the council's general fund balance, and C, approve the requirement of 0.620 million to the capital programme to fund the development of the welcomed affordable rented dwellings in Whitchurch, which will be funded from section 106 affordable housing developer contributions. I move the recommendations.
Thank you very much. And can I ask for a seconder for that report? Councillor Rob Gittins.
Yes, I'm happy to second.
Thank you very much. Any comments? Councillor Basmar.
Thank you, Chair. And thanks for this report. I just wanted to make 3 observations really on this report. One is about the capital programme, and the quarter 1 monitoring report removed 49.4 million from the CS capital programme, but there's still some large reductions, particularly in the housing revenue account, £12.7 million. And the original capital budget was 20.15, and spend to date is 1.18. So presumably there's a lot of houses we were hoping to build which we're not building, presumably related to COVID. That'd be an interesting response to that. Secondly, on commercial services, we originally had a budget of 36.56 million, of which 30.38 million was unallocated commercial investments. The commercial services capital budget was reduced to 15.8 million at quarter 1, and actual spend to date is 1.3 million. So presumably this lack of investment will have some impact on the revenue budget in terms of lost income as a result of failure to make investments. And lastly, just to say that, I mean, you know, we continue to dip into our reserves to balance books, and you know, clearly we cannot continue to do that. And I wondered, given the seriousness of the situation facing the council long term in 2023, 24, 25, when we'll basically run out of money, has the administration sought meetings with the new Minister responsible for local government and finance, Michael Gove, to highlight the dangerous position that Shropshire faces? We really need to lobby very hard on this, and I was hoping that you might be able to give me some update about what the council is doing on that score.
Well, I can just update you on that, Councillor Basmar, because I know the leader of the council has had several meetings with Michael Gove, the Cabinet Minister, Central Government responsible for local government. I have too joined various meetings to work through our our budget position moving forward. And I can confirm that there will be future meetings over the coming weeks. And we, of course, are lobbying hard on Shropshire's behalf. Councillor Butler, is there anything else you'd like to add to that?
Just in fact to your further 2 points regarding the housing revenue account and reserves, I've got Toyin and James with us who will perhaps answer on the current position. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. It's absolutely correct. In terms of the capital programme, there have been a number of reductions made at quarter 1 and at quarter 2, and the reasons for those there are related to COVID, to supply chain, to a number of areas within that. All of those are reflected within the capital programme adjustments that have been made, and further details if you have specific issues can be pulled together on the back of that. In relation to commercial services, by its very nature, this is about spending money on a number of kind of commercial projects, and those are subject to market conditions. At this point in time, the capital programme is adjusted to reflect the proposed schemes that are in place. It does have an impact on income if those schemes are more or less successful, or if they don't go ahead, or they go ahead of time. All of that is reflected in the revenue monitor in the detail that's shown in the appendix above.
Thank you very much. And I know Councillor Carroll wants to come in.
Thank you. Yes, put a little bit more meat on the bones of what James has just said in terms of the housing revenue account and the commercial investments, and this is similar to answers I've given previously at Cabinet, at Council and at scrutiny, where when this has been questioned, that as we know globally there have been significant rises in the costs of construction, particularly in terms of building materials, the doubling in the costs of steel and concrete, tripling in the costs of lumber. Those kind of bubble effects aren't sustainable, and what we usually see over the course of a number of years is that along with every other market, the cost of these materials will go up, the cost of these materials will come back down again. It's absolutely prudent that we wouldn't necessarily spend more to deliver a project today when we could deliver more projects for the same money tomorrow. What we also need to bear in mind is the difficulty of delivering those projects during the COVID environment with stop-start on work sites, and what the construction industry has most trouble with is not being able to plan its development and plan its work programme, which it hasn't been able to do during the lockdowns because of COVID. So that has all had an effect of delaying construction and development, particularly in the housing and in the retail and commercial sector. That is not something that should come as a surprise to anybody. We've seen these reports nationally and globally on all the major news networks about similar issues, so it shouldn't come as a surprise. It's also not the first time it's appeared in one of our either quarterly or annual monitoring reports. As I've said, it is no sign of any lack of commitment by the council or by any of the council's subsidiaries to deliver on these projects. And coming on to the commercial aspect, the commercial funds that were committed by this council and were agreed by this council for investment projects were not committed with the mind of investing all in a single year or within 2 financial years. That envelope of funding was approved to invest in projects as and when the development opportunities became available or the commercial opportunities became available. And for exactly the same reasons as I've explained with the housing revenue account capital programme, now is probably the worst possible time to be making commercial investment unless that investment is absolutely right. So we shouldn't be going out and spending that money and investing that money just because it's there. If it takes us another year or 2 years to find the market conditions more favourable to invest that money, that is prudent and good commercial sense.
Thank you very much. I think Councillor Butler wants to come back.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I'd just like to reiterate the point regarding the pandemic, really, and take the opportunity to thank the staff for having to work in unusual circumstances. When I actually say that, it's leading on from what Councillor Carroll is saying, as a finance team, we're having to be very agile. We're having to be able to change to market. We're having to, you know, not be, if we're driving down that road, we may have to go down a different route. We have to be able to move and move quickly, and I'm pleased with the support of Cabinet that we are doing that, and we are on our toes in respect to the finances. So I'm quite, you know, keen to move the recommendations, and I think in difficult times, which the whole of the world is experiencing, I feel we are in control of the situation and doing a good job. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'd just like to sort of reiterate what Councillor Butler said, and thanks go to him as portfolio holder and the whole team, but across all our colleagues across the services who have, as we've said at the beginning of the year, while still in COVID, and as we've started to come out of COVID and deal with the ongoing situation, are providing fantastic services across Shropshire. And I'd just like to thank everyone involved for that. So could I ask for those in favour to please show? Thank you very much. And we move on to item 12, which is the Treasury Management Update Q2. And this is Councillor Butler once again to present the report.
Thank you, Chair. Right, the Treasury team is currently managing 175 million of investments and 292 million of borrowing. Over the second quarter of 21-22 financial year, the team has delivered a return of 0.11%. This is down from the 0.17% at quarter one. While this is only a tiny percentage return, it still delivered almost £92,000 of income to the council and exceeded the benchmark by 0.2%. At the moment, many banks have to be paid to hold temporary investments, so any return is a real positive. The appendices provide more detail and indicate that all prudential indicators have been met. Therefore, Chair, in item 3, I move the recommendations that members are asked to accept the position as set out in the report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And can I ask for a seconder for that report?
Councillor Nellens.
Thank you, Councillor Nellens. Any comments on that? Councillor Julian Dean.
Thank you. Just a brief. I suppose. This is a bit new for me, I have to admit, but I'm just a bit disappointed. These are very dry reports and there's no sense of Treasury management supporting any sort of corporate strategy. And I just wonder, you know, if we're taking opportunities to think about where investments are sitting, that, you know, the climate bit in it doesn't say anything about which of these banks are doing good stuff and which of them are doing bad stuff, and also whether there's opportunities for sitting money somewhere where it's actually going to support the local economy. Yeah, so I just think it's something that perhaps we need to be thinking about how to use this a bit more strategically. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butler.
Again, James, would you like to comment?
Thank you, Chair. In terms of the Treasury management approach, we can only invest in grade AA banks. It's more concerned about the risk of return of our money rather than the risk of return of our money. So from that point of view, we're very careful in terms of where we make those investments. We would not be investing any of the council's treasury returns in local schemes. It's all backed by investment analysis to do that. But in terms of which banks and institutions that we do invest with, there is a list of those, and certainly from the point of view of what are their credentials in terms of climate change, etc. We can certainly look to that and see whether there is any impact on that. But as it stands, our policy is that we invest in high quality organisations, and their green credentials are not at the top of that list.
The portfolio holder's nodding and taking that on board. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to take that back, Julian, and we'll have a look at it and see how we can perhaps change the way the report is more visual in the future. Because I agree with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are no further comments, can I have all those in favour of the recommendations? Thank you very much, that's approved. Final item on the agenda, item number 13, which is performance monitoring report, and I'd like to invite the portfolio holder, Councillor Rob Gittings, to propose this report, please.
Thank you very much, Chair. This is the second quarterly report summarising the Council's performance against a number of key measures, the majority of which have improved or remained constant. As previously discussed, we are currently developing a new Shropshire plan with a comprehensive performance management framework underpinning it. We will see revised performance measures aligned to the Council's priorities developed over the coming weeks and months. Members are directed to the performance portal, a link of which is included in the report, providing information on all the Council's key performance measures. Could I ask Cabinet to consider and endorse the recommendations as laid out in section 7 of the Cabinet paper? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And can I ask for a seconder for that report? Councillor Dean Carroll. I've got Councillor Julia Buckley indicated she'd like to speak, joining us on Teams.
Hi there, yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we've got you.
Thank you. Yeah, it was just looking at the areas where we are underperforming, which was around the direct payments issue. So it's excellent, isn't it, to see that those who access the services, so the most vulnerable, we've got quite a high proportion receiving direct support, but those that care for them, so the carers, that's one of our lowest rates. So these are perhaps some of our lowest economic residents, perhaps they may have low education, they're not particularly well paid. I'm quite worried that they are not taking advantage of the access to direct payments, and it's quite a low score on each of those factors, isn't it? Proportion of carers who receive direct payments and proportion who get involved in direct support. I'd be quite interested for us to find out what the barriers might be. So could it be lack of knowledge and information? You know, many carers, you know, are unpaid for quite a long time before they even realise there's any support. Or could there be some other barriers, whether it's around access to information, whether that's digital exclusion, whether they might need some support accessing broadband or some IT training. So I'm just wondering if we could perhaps do a bit of work to unpick that, perhaps through a scrutiny function or elsewhere, perhaps because it's around support rather than something that the council's not doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I bring in Tanya Miles?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor Buckley. The Health Overview Scrutiny Committee discussed direct payments at its last meeting, and we've agreed to have a further review in 6 months' time. So just for Cabinet's benefit, we've now got a new direct payments policy that was launched this year. We've got a new vision, a new strategy. It's recognising that in the past it was complicated. But I'm really confident in the new policy. Our staff have undergone refresher training in terms of the benefits of a direct payment. The committee last week were really reassured in terms of the presentation that we gave. However, as Exec Director of People, I want to make sure that we're on this all of the time. So in 6 months' time, it's going back to committee for further scrutiny.
Thank you very much. Councillor Julian Dean indicated, and I'll come to Councillor Vasma after Julian.
Thank you very much. So at the beginning of your report, thank you for the report. Rob suggested that we're about to develop a new corporate plan, which is clearly desperately needed. I mean, I think what's interesting looking at this is that there are 22 measures here. There's only 3 targets, and it just sort of relates back to the answer that Councillor Carroll gave to a question about shifting transport. You know, we with so few targets, it just feels like we're drifting. We need a new corporate plan. We also need a new economic strategy, and through scrutiny, I've been calling for proper members' workshops on that, not just the odd scrutiny meeting. All of this really needs, since most of these plans were originally drawn up, we've got a new administration, and if you look at the economic strategy, since that was written before Brexit, before the pandemic, and before we declared a climate emergency. So there's a lot of work to do, and I just think that at the moment I'm not yet seeing a shape to how members can be involved in developing a new corporate plan and a new economic strategy, which will actually give us something to really celebrate and to work towards, because I think having 3 targets is really not adequate.
Thank you very much. I'd like to bring in Councillor Butler, who's indicated just on this point, I think.
Thank you. I just wanted to come back to Julian. If you look at the forward plan, you will actually see that there is an item for the Shropshire plan actually on the plan, so to speak. And the Shropshire plan will be coming out very, very shortly, and then it will be out for the conversation of everybody, and it will reiterate most of what you've actually been talking about, but also taking into account all those strategies that we've worked on the past few years, and that will sit above the medium and full-time strategy. The strategy then will link in directly to performance below it. So you will have the Shropshire plan, what our ambitions are, how we're going to do things, what our ethos is. You will then have the finance sitting below it, and then leading on from that, you will have the performance to monitor it. And that is my long-term vision, that we know what we want, we know where we want to go, this is the money, can we do it, and how are we performing? And that's what I want to try and deliver in the next few months. Thank you.
And just to add to that, I know there's a lot of work underway to shape a set of corporate performance management targets and measures. So I think the message is that this is something that is coming along the pipeline very, very quickly. Councillor David Vasmer.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just want to echo comments that that Councillor Dean made, really, and I do think that we do need to improve this significantly. I mean, looking at, for example, a healthy environment, the only kind of highways-related type thing is about the number of people killed or seriously injured on roads, and I think that we need to look at far more targets and also make sure that they're properly measured as well. And also, I think that we need to consult properly about this to make sure that it's a document which all councillors can refer to and be involved with, because I do feel that in the past it's something which has been rushed out and has not really had proper member involvement.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butler.
Yeah, I totally take that on board, David. I also think that it needs to be a totally new style document that anybody in the street would understand what we're about and what we're doing. And I want to use a lot more visual aids so you can actually pick it up. There will be short, snappy versions, and then there'll be the long worded version below that. So we have to make this user friendly, and I'm more than happy for it to go through performance scrutiny and for everybody to have an input into that.
Thank you, Councillor Gittins.
Yeah, thank you. Just to echo what Councillor Butler said, basically, we are in a transition phase at the moment as we are transitioning to our new Shropshire plan. We will have more targets, we will have more performance measures and KPIs. So, don't worry about it. I do agree with what's been said. We will defer back also to members and let members have their say as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have nobody else indicating they wish to. Oh, Councillor Butler.
Sorry, Chair. One thing I just wanted to express as it came into my mind, it's my intention that the new Shropshire plan will be a living document. So we've seen now, nobody would have believed where the journey we've come through the last 2 to 3 years with COVID and pandemic. So any corporate plan that this organisation makes needs to have the ability to be agile, like I said before, and to change quickly and to change in an ever-changing world. And so obviously member involvement will be vital. So yeah, bring it on. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think that's all the comments. So all those in favour to note this report, please show. That's approved. Thank you very much. That brings us to the end of the business. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today, whether it be online through Teams, listening in, or here in the building. And look forward to seeing you the next time. And we'll just wait for the live recording to finish. And that brings us to the end of the business.